Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my new video. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about these main topics. I'm going to be talking about the Kurds joining the war. I'm going to be talking about the US Army commanders basically selling this war with Iran as a holy war, as a crusade, basically. I'm going to be talking about Korea and Japan, where America is running out of missiles and they're having to take THAAD missiles away from Korea and Japan, what it means, why Iran will win this war. I'm going to be talking about the Shaheed drones. They are basically electronic warfare proof, and these are the latest Shaheed drones which have been battle tested in Russia, and Russia has been providing intelligence and knowledge sharing with Iran. I'm also going to be talking about Chinese communications and why it's lacking in Iran, which is something Iran needs to improve on, mainly because so many leaders and commanders are being killed in Iran easily, guys, easily. I mean, today I'm hearing there was supposed to be a meeting to discuss and vote for the next leader of Iran, and that meeting place got bombed. And I don't know how many got killed because it's not clear. But the fact is, Iran needs to stop meeting like this and getting themselves killed. They need to have meetings with proper secured channels. And I'm going to be discussing how with Chinese communications, by the way, which includes Huawei. I'm going to be talking about Hormuz Strait, the latest what's happening with Hormuz Strait, and insurance companies deciding not to insure any ships going through there. But Trump has basically come up with an idea, a ridiculous idea. I'm also going to be talking about the Bahrain uprising. So without further ado, let's start with the show. Don't forget to like and share. And if you watch the video to the end, it really helps the algorithm. So the first thing is there's this story going around all over Twitter that President Trump has been calling the Kurds to mount an operation on the northern part of Iran. So President Trump has basically promised them their own state, and they're going to give Kurds a lot of money. We're talking about hundreds of billions, which covers weapons, which covers salaries for the troops, and other things, obviously other costs and things like that. And basically, it's all over social media at the moment, this story. So will it work? First of all, the big answer, in my opinion, is no. Because, first of all, the Kurds cannot trust the Americans. The Kurds have been backstabbed by the Americans so many times, guys. We're talking about 9, 10 times already. And even recently, the Kurds have been dumped by Trump in Syria. So, Kurds, as you can see from this map, um, the Kurds basically live across Iran, Iraq, Syria, and Turkey, with Turkey taking most of the Kurds. And you can see below Turkey, you have Syria. So I'm going to draw something, guys, so it'll make it more clear. So you can see in Syria, you have a big number of Kurds that used to live there. And they were promised they would have their own state if they helped overthrow the Assad regime. This was very recently. So the Kurds basically helped kind of take out the Assad regime. I shouldn't say regime, but Assad administration in Syria. So the Kurds help, but also you have al-Jolani, who's current leader of Syria, he was based in Idlib, which is around here, Idlib. And Idlib has been supported by Turkey and also the US as well. So al-Jolani has pretty much taken over all of Syria, and the Kurds have been backstabbed again by the United States. So the United States have made a deal with al-Jolani, and basically they have allowed al-Jolani to take control of this northern part of Syria, which used to be controlled by the Kurds. So you can see the Kurds have been backstabbed very recently by President Trump. However, President Trump has been calling the Kurdistan leaders today, and looks like he's offered them a state if Kurds basically help take over Iran. So first of all, let's talk about this really. There isn't enough Kurds to take over all of Iran. I mean, with Iran has over 90 to 100 million people, and most of them are Shia Muslims, and they will fight to the last person against the Kurds if they have to. And they also have Iraq. I mean, Iran also has Iraq as well to help them with any if any war happens with Kurds. And they also have the help of Turkey. Turkey has said if Kurdistan gets involved, then Turkey will get involved and start attacking the Kurds. So Iran is not going to be alone. So if the Kurds get involved, you can see a big regional war happening across Turkey, across Syria, also across Iraq as well. And there isn't enough Kurds uh, to basically take over all of Iran. And plus, they do not have Iran's military. Iran has, as you can see, they have top of the range missiles. They can take out Kurdistan positions. They have top of the range drones. They have I believe, over like 1 million troops in Iran as well. Most of them are elite revolutionary guards. So Kurds have no chance. American can provide Kurds with obviously some advanced weapons, but they cannot provide Kurds with the latest weapons which Iran has. And Kurds don't have the you know, they don't have the manufacturing to produce their own weapons either, like the advanced weapons. So this will be more of like a dis- distraction for Iran, really. However, if Kurds do get involved in this war, it's going to be the end of Kurds, because I can tell you for a fact, Iran will see this as a threat. They will see the Kurds as a major threat. So if the Kurds do get involved, what Iran's going to do, they're going to take out. First of all, they will probably take out this part of Kurds first, and they will probably expel them towards Turkey and stuff. And what could be a possibility is Iran might start taking over northern parts of Iraq. They might start, because first of all, the northern parts of Iraq is not controlled by Iraq, by the way. They have their own administration, they have their own government, they have their own finance, central banks, and the northern parts of Iraq is mainly controlled by the Kurds, and the rest of Iraq has no control over the northern parts. And also, there's some oil fields around here which the Kurds control, and they have their own economy because of this oil. And this is why the rest of Iraq will not care if Iran takes over northern parts of Iraq. And I think that could happen if the Kurds decide to attack Iran. Iran could take over this whole region. And if they take over this whole region, they would touch Syria. And if Iran touches Syria, you can imagine what's going to happen after that. Then what Iran can do, Iran can send proxies to fight Al-Jilani. Al-Jilani obviously is the current leader of Syria, and Iran can cause a lot of problems for Al-Jilani. They can send proxies. They can send, pro-Syrian, because there's a lot of people in Syria who are not happy with Al-Jilani, by the way, and so Iran can help those groups to mount a fight towards Al-Jilani and his regime. Let's just say regime. So Iran can cause a lot of problems to Syria, and Iran can also cause a lot of problems to Israel, because what you have is you also have Lebanon in you also have kind of Lebanon here, and Iran would be it would be much easier for Iran to basically supply Lebanon with weapons, because they only have to go through Syria. Previously, they had to go through Iraq, which was difficult because obviously northern Iraq was controlled by the Kurds, and the Kurds are friendly towards Israel, and it would be much easier for Iran to help Hezbollah and other groups if they can touch Syria, and they can also help liberate Syria as well. Plus, the other good thing is they would be closer to Israel as well, and they would basically destroy any Greater Israel project. So if Israel has plans to kind of have this Greater Israel project which covers most of Syria, covers you know most of Iraq, most of Saudi Arabia, that would cause a lot of problems for Israel, and obviously it gives a bigger problem to Israel as well. So I think that's what could happen if the Kurds decided to attack Iran, and it would be the worst decision by the Kurds ever. So let's go to the next story. The the Holy War, basically. So there's an email going around. This one, basically, what the commanders are doing, they are sending this. They're sending this memo out that basically Trump. They're saying that Trump has been given a mission to do an Armageddon prophecy, and they said that to follow Trump, and they basically want to make this into a holy war, and they want to basically have an Armageddon, and they want to have the next rise of Jesus or something. And the next, obviously, according to kind of Christianity, during Armageddon, that's when Jesus rises again or something. But it seems to me that this kind of religion talks is basically pushed by the Jews. I think the Jews are pretty much controlling the U.S. Army, and they are putting this fake biblical stuff to brainwash the American soldiers and get them to fight, because they have no other reason to fight Iran. They cannot use 9/11 excuse. They cannot use any other excuse, so they have to basically make up a religion excuse. And they want to turn this into a holy war. And it's going to be something like the Crusades, which they want to turn into. Problem is, if they have already killed the Grand Ayatollah Khomeini, so they already have 300 Shia Muslims completely hating Americans, and they will fight Americans to the last person if they had to. Now, if they turn this into a holy war, where it's Christianity versus, Christianity and Jews versus Muslims, then you will unite the rest of the Muslims together, and that would mean more Muslims will join the war on Iran's side, and this war would easily escalate into, into something huge, bigger than it already is. So this is really bad news, and this is why you don't mix religion with war. Things get really out of hand because it's not political anymore. You're talking about fighting ideology, you're fighting religion, and yeah, it's just not good. It's not a good touch, guys. It's not a good touch. Let's talk about the Korean THAAD missiles. So Trump has ordered THAAD missiles to be taken from Korea and Japan. So Trump sent a Truth Social post yesterday, and in that Truth Social post, he says that America can do forever wars. America has unlimited supply of weapons and everything else, and he said America would never run out of weapons or missiles. But everybody knows it's a lie. Nobody's buying it. Even the Western media is not buying it because, first of all, America is trying to take the THAAD missiles from Korea and Japan and put it to the Middle East. And also, Middle East countries' missiles, the interceptor missiles, are running out. We're talking about Qatar and UAE missiles running out within days. You could run out by this weekend. And Saudi Arabia could last another, week or so. Jordan will last another week. And Israel will probably last a couple of weeks. And that's it, guys. And here you have Trump lying again and saying he's got unlimited number of interceptor missiles, which is not true at all. So if he has unlimited supply of missiles, then why is he trying to take it from Korea and Japan? Just to remind you guys, I've been following the Korean THAAD story for a long time. Those of you who remember when the THAAD missiles were placed in Korea at the time, Korea, the land which the THAAD missiles were in was used by Lotte. Lotte is a Korean supermarket, and Lotte was all over China at the time. Lotte was a big supermarket all over China, and they were making a lot of money from China at the time. So Lotte sold its land and gave it up to the Americans to place THAAD missiles in Korea facing China. So China was extremely angry about this, and basically they kicked Lotte out of China because of it, because Lotte sold that land to put THAAD missiles in it, and they kicked out Lotte, and they placed all these economic sanctions on Korea as well at the time. So Korea suffered a huge amount of sanctions, and one of the reasons why China has risen is because they used to buy a lot of goods from Korea at the time. Back then, Korea was the number one producer of electronic goods because Samsung, LG, uh, Hyundai, and all these major brands were selling all over the world. They were selling everything from TVs, microwave ovens, fridges, you name it, and they were selling it to China as well. And because they placed these sanctions on Korea, China basically had to um, build a lot of their stuff themselves. So after they placed those sanctions, you've seen the rise of Chinese television companies and fridges and things like that. China basically fast tracked their manufacturing because they placed all these sanctions on Korea, and so it really helped China develop the industry and manufacturing by placing those sanctions on Korea at the time. And Korean uh, economy actually suffered as a result. Korea was one of the few countries that China had a trade deficit with, meaning China used to buy more goods from Korea than Korea buys from China. But recently, China has a trade surplus with Korea, which means Korea buys more goods from China than the other way around. So things have completely turned around in a few years, and that's all because of the THAAD missiles, by the way, and all because of Lotte as well. So you see, now the Americans want to take away the THAAD from Korea and Japan. So all of that sanctions, all of that trouble Korea had from China, all of those economic issues and kicking out Lotte, all of that was for nothing, basically. They did it all for nothing because if America takes away the THAAD missile from Korea, Why the hell did Korea jeopardize its relationship with China just for these THAAD missiles? And now it's got nothing. It doesn't have THAAD missiles anymore. So all of that trouble was for nothing, basically. It's absolutely ridiculous on Korea's end. So yeah, I just wanted to give you that brief history about it, really. But yeah, if America doesn't have, if America has un, you know, unlimited supply of missiles and things, why did they stop the war, the 12-day war when Israel was fighting um, Iran? And why can't they give these missiles to Ukraine if it's unlimited? I'll tell you why, because it's not unlimited, guys. These missiles and things cost money, and that's one thing America doesn't have is money. Uh, Trump wants to increase military budget to 1.5 trillion by next year, and looks like he's going to hit that target. This means America is going to be more in debt. The middle class will suffer more. Rich will get richer. People who own shares in defense companies will get richer. Everyone else will get poorer. And that's how it goes. Inflation's going to rise. Dollar's going to fall. This is all bad news, guys. All bad news. So, what do you talk about why I think Iran will win this war? First of all, I think America has already lost this war in the first day by killing Grand Ayatollah Khomeini. I mean, this guy was 86 years old. He had a lot of illnesses. He didn't really have that long to live, to be honest. You can just probably give him, probably, I don't want to make any guesses, but he really didn't have long to live. He's 86 years old. He was really frail. He was really weak, and he had a few problems as well. So they could have just waited until he passed away. But no, they had to make him into a martyr. And this has enraged 300 million um, Shia Muslims all across the region, not just in Iran, but Bahrain, in Pakistan, in Iraq. And this has been an absolute disaster, guys. I can't believe they did that. I just cannot believe they would do something as ridiculous and silly like that. Absolutely. I mean, it has no benefits. This has got no benefits whatsoever. This comes out of the Israeli playbook, by the way. This is what Israel does. And now what Israel does, America does. America basically follows. Israel has been doing this for years in Palestine. They've been bombing people and their families for years. So now America is basically taking what Israel is doing and just they're doing it themselves, basically. They think taking out the leader, the whole country will collapse and blah, blah, blah. They are just in their own world, guys. Cloud cuckoo land. Real world does not work like that. And Iran has learned from his lesson from this 12-day war. Everything has become decentralized, which means, the army doesn't take orders from one person. What they've done is, they have separated many divisions, and each division has a bunch of commanders, and they basically do whatever they like. They have their own chain of command. They do not have to wait for orders from Grand Ayatollah Khomeini or anyone like that. They basically do their own thing, and it's been very effective. It's been very, very effective, and America has been shocked by it. The speed of Iran's response has been very fast, and America has been completely taken back, and Israel as well. They have achieved nothing so far. They're not going to achieve regime war by bombing the country and killing schoolgirls. The first day they killed 200, 250 schoolgirls, could be more. What does that tell you? It tells you that, they've been telling the story for the last few weeks. We're only going to target military bases in Iran. We're not going to target the people. But when you start killing kids, do you really expect the people to kind of stand up and support you? I mean, look at America's track record in Iraq. How many people did they kill in Iraq? Millions. There's probably around 1 million people died, but probably more because of the effects of the war. Like lots of people died of radiation poisoning and stuff like that because America was using uranium shells, and uranium shells are radioactive, and so a lot of people died from that. Died of cancer and many other diseases because of those uranium shells. So you see, America cannot win this war because you have the whole population of Iran completely against them. You've seen protests. There were protests, but these were protests supporting the government. So it's not going to be easy for them to do a regime change. And the only way to stop the missiles and stuff is to do a regime change. And America cannot do that without boots on the ground. I mean, now Trump is saying he's going to put boots on the ground, but I don't think he will because this is going to cost trillions. And that's something America doesn't have. Yeah, they can probably borrow it, but that's going to cost the taxpayer even more money, and people will have to suffer because of inflation, high cost of gas, and things like that. So I don't think America can afford it really, and I think the midterms are coming up in November. I think if this war lasts another 3 months or even 6 months, I don't think Trump will want this war going while the midterms are happening because by then there's going to, you know, people are going to be starting to suffer because already oil prices are going higher and they're going to keep going higher because Hormuz Strait has been closed, and that's going to keep going higher. There's going to be more casualties. More money is going to be drained from America's budget to fight this war. And within 6 months, when it comes to the midterms, Trump is going to be completely voted out. He's going to lose really badly, and and he could be impeached after that. So he will want to finish this war within weeks rather than months. And I don't think he can do that because Iran can easily survive this for months. They have their own production for missiles, drones. They are taking, raw materials and information, intelligence from China, from Russia. Russia and China are secretly helping Iran. They don't need to put boots on the ground. They can provide intelligence, they can provide raw materials, they can provide financial help, they can provide economic help, and also diplomatic help as well. So they can help a lot with Iran, similar to what China has been doing with Russia in its war in Ukraine. They can help Russia. They've been helping Russia many ways. They're helping them financially. They'll be helping them with providing raw materials. They've been helping them with money, with deals. There's so many things China can do and help Iran, and also with Russia as well. So I don't think I think Iran can survive this war for more than 6 months easily, but America can't, and this is why I think Iran will win. And they made a big mistake by killing Khamenei. If they kept him alive, then Iran, they basically crossed a red line, guys. Then Iran would have probably agreed to some sort of ceasefire, and the war would have ended. But because they've killed him, you have the whole population asking for revenge. So it's going to be very, very difficult to stop this war on the Iran side. And also, it's in Iran's interest to basically keep this war going because if America is really stretched in the Middle East, so America is helping Israel, obviously, defend Israel. But it cannot defend all the Gulf countries as well. So what Iran is doing is firing missiles and destroying bases all across the Middle East. By the time this war ends, I don't think America will have any bases left in the Middle East, by the way. And any ceasefire talks will probably involve America leaving the area. And America's going to lose not only the bases in the Middle East, but he's also going to lose the petrodollar as well, because you're going to see all the Middle East countries start trading outside the dollar. They will start buying weapons, non-American weapons, because they're, this war has shown that American weapons are useless. These THAAD missiles, Patriot missiles, have not been taken out Iranian drones and missiles. They've been absolutely useless. So these Gulf countries are going to stop dealing with America because this fake scam that America's going to protect them. It's all fake, guys. America is not going to protect them. They'd even protect Qatar from Israel, and can't protect Qatar from Iran. So these Gulf countries are completely left as sitting ducks, and they have no army of themselves. Basically, these Gulf countries are so corrupted with money. They have been throwing money around, because they depend on America so much. They've been throwing so much money towards America to defend them that they have not been focusing on their own military. And the difference between Iran and these Gulf countries, Iran has been focusing on its own military. It's been, developing its own military, its own hardware, own missiles, own own command and control, and everything. So they've been developing themselves. But these Gulf countries have got so lazy, and they think that America will protect them at all costs. Nothing's going to happen to them, and they've not been putting much effort into their own military. Similar to Europe, by the way. Europe has done the same thing. They've been focusing on the economy rather than their military, and now they're suffering. So the same with the Gulf countries. They're all sitting ducks. They're all useless pretty much when it comes to military. And they've been throwing money at America to buy all these fancy weapons, but none of them really work. And it's just a sham. So I think all the Gulf Arabs are realizing it's a sham. And after this war, I think there's going to be a huge reality check, and you're going to see a lot of these Gulf countries jumping ship. They're going to leave the dollar, leave America, and start, going closer to Russia and China, and even Iran. Even I think a lot of Gulf countries will start, um, basically asking for Iran to provide them with the security and stuff like that. So things will change after this war. So I'm going to talk a bit more about that in another video, but let's talk about other things really. So I wanted to talk about these Shaheed drones. These Shaheed drones, when Iran first produced these Shaheed drones, they gave it to Russia, and Russia has been using them, developing them, and improving them over the years. Russia's been fighting Ukraine for 4 years, so they have improved the distance these drones can fly. They have improved the explosives in the drones, so they are more explosive. They have improved the kind of the anti-jamming system, because one way to take down drones is to jam them. So Russians have put this anti-jamming technology on these drones, so they cannot be jammed, and they are also a lot more quieter, because the first generation of drones were very noisy, and these are a lot more quieter. They go faster, longer distance. They have more, and they have better electronics as well. So they have improved in every single way, and Iran has been using them. And these are battle-tested drones. They've been tested for years in the Ukraine battle, and Iran is the only country that's using them in the Middle East. And these Middle Eastern countries have no answer to them. And this is why, UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar are scared to join in the fight, because if they join in the fight, these countries would be absolutely destroyed. And don't forget, guys, if you look at Iran and compare it to Dubai and Qatar, even Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Dubai, they have all these skyscrapers, high-rise buildings, lots of malls, and fancy, you know, fancy shops, and designer shops everywhere, luxury hotels. These are they've spent a lot of money developing these shiny buildings, and hotels, and make it look nice and safe, and it's ultimate place to go to holidays for influencers and crypto bros and stuff. So they made their cities look absolutely beautiful. But if you compare it to Iran, Iran is not like that. They're a lot more um, humble, and Iran has been focusing on building underground cities rather than cities on top, skyscrapers and stuff. So they've been building huge underground cities to prepare for war. So Iran is prepared for war, and these Gulf countries are not. So all it takes is for Iran to throw a few missiles, take out the Burj Khalifa, take out, some of the big buildings in Qatar, and that's it. These Gulf countries will just collapse overnight. All the foreigners will leave. The whole idea of these Gulf countries being safe and tax haven will all just disappear, and these Gulf countries will just collapse in days rather than weeks. So. So this is why these Gulf countries have not got involved with the war, and if they do, it's going to be a big mistake. The only country here who is prepared for war is Iran and also Yemen as well, and also Hezbollah. But all the other Gulf countries have been basically taking in, American money, American dollars, and they've been using up all these years on luxury and living a good life, living a rich life, while Iran has been under sanctions. So these guys are really battle hardened under sanctions, and they have been kept humble by there's no extravagant wealth in Iran apart from a few people. But yeah, that's the difference between Iran and the rest of the Gulf countries, and this is why I think Iran will win. So yeah, I spoke about the Shaheed drones. Let's talk about Chinese satellite communication. So I read a story today. I read a story today that Israel blew up a building where there was a lot of clerics joining, and they were going to pick the next leader or something, and Israel blew up the building. It's not clear whether how many people died, but this has been a regular thing in Iran. Israel has been taking out these leaders in Iran. Even in the first 12-day war, and even now, they've been taking out all the leaderships. Anyone that has meetings, they've been taking them out with missiles and Tomahawk missiles and stuff. Iran needs to stop that, guys. First of all, I know there's a lot of Iranians that use mobiles, especially Apple mobiles and Samsung mobiles, which get tracked. So they need to stop using these devices. They need to start using the latest Huawei phones, and they need to stop meeting in physically in places. What they need to do is, if they need to meet, they need to do it in underground bunkers in secret, and if they cannot do that, then they need to do it with secure communications with Huawei 5G networks. So this is the thing, guys. I think Iran has made a huge mistake. They should have gone in with Chinese equipment from day one. They would have been a lot more prepared. So if they had 5G communications all throughout Iran, they could have easily fast network and secured connection, and they wouldn't need to meet face to face. They can do it from their bedrooms, so they can have individual people from different parts of Iran meeting via meeting via video, basically video or telephone conferencing, and Israel would not be able to take them all out at once. If they can take out one or two, it's not the same as taking all the leadership at once when they meet together. So Iran needs to improve a lot on communications, and especially they need to get rid of any iPhones or Western technology in Iran. They need to completely rid themselves of it. And that includes all the broadband and other communications, and even software, things like WhatsApp. They all need to go. All Western software, hardware need to go. They need to start replacing everything with Huawei networks, phones, and that's the only way to go. Russia's already been doing that. Other countries have been doing that as well, and I think I think Iran needs to do that as well. Pakistan has also been doing that, and this is why Pakistan is a very strong country militarily, and this is why India is very scared of Pakistan, and they cannot take down Pakistan because they have integrated Chinese software, hardware, networks, you know, military. Everything's integrated and interlocked. So I think Iran needs to do that, and I think Iran is slowly doing that, learning its lessons. I think they have learned a lot from the 12-day war. They have really improved from the 12-day war, for example. They have really improved a lot, but there is still a long way to go. They still need a lot more improvement, especially with their communications. So there's another story about the Hormuz Strait where Trump is basically saying, there's a lot of insurance companies who said they're not going to insure any ships going through the Hormuz Strait. So what Trump is saying is Trump will insure those ships, but he will insure them with taxpayers' money. So if any of these ships get destroyed by Iran, Trump said he will pay using taxpayers' money to those ships. So this is absolutely bonkers, guys. First of all, if anybody goes through the Hormuz Strait, Iran will easily take them out. America tried to do the same thing in the Red Sea against the Yemenis, remember, and the Americans completely failed. Yemenis really took them to the cleaners, and they think they can do the same thing with the Hormuz Strait. Well, no, they can't. Iran can easily take them out with drones or underground submarines or missiles, and they will be sitting ducks, easy targets to the Iranians. And it's absolutely bonkers that Trump thinks he can. He lives in his own world at this point. He's been advised by dummies, and he's listening to all these dummies around him who have got no idea how the world works. And Donald Trump is basically coming up with ideas from them. And finally, I want to talk about Bahrain. Bahrain, there was an uprising yesterday. There was a lot of people doing riots, and the Saudis have come in, and Saudi security team had to come in and help the royals and get rid of these supporters. So I think when this war ends, I think what Iran needs to do is help liberate Bahrain. Bahrain is like Iran's Taiwan because Bahrain used to be Iranian territory at one point. I believe before 1950, it was Iranian territory. It was part of the Persian Empire, and they've lost it, ever since. And that because they've lost it, that Bahrain has now turned into a military base which the US uses against Iran. So basically, it's similar to China and Taiwan. You know, you know, Taiwan was used as a military base at one point, fighting China, especially in the Korean War, if you guys remember. So America used Taiwan as a base to kind of they had a huge American base in it to fight, basically fight the Korean War against China at the time. So it's very similar to what Iran is doing. So I think when this war ends, Iran needs to liberate Bahrain. Bahrain's still got 80% Shia population, and a lot of them support Iran. So I don't think there will be much of a problem for Iran to basically liberate that country and bring it part of Iran again, part of the Persian Empire. I think they should do that, and you'll help Iran also monitor the Hormuz Strait and the rest of the Middle East. Because if Iran wins this war, they will be they will soon become a superpower in the Middle East because they will learn a lot from this war. They will give them a lot of confidence, and I think all the other Gulf countries will have no choice but to capitulate and basically give in to Iranian demands. And that's it, guys. That's all I wanted to say. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care for now.